conceded it could have been even deadlier than Columbine. This alleged plot to blow up a high school in Utah with 2 students at the center of this whole thing. Take a look here. This is the older suspect. This is 18-year-old Dallin Morgan. Police aren't naming the other suspect simply because he's only 16. But these 2 teens are accused of conspiring to set up a bomb during school assembly there in Roy, Utah. And police say they had this elaborate plan, complete with maps of the school, marking cameras, blind spots. Obviously, investigators are taking this very, very seriously.
This was not idle chatter, and that was early on recognized that there was significant thought, there was significant purpose, and there had been some pre-planning and training to the extent of how do I fly a plane that I want to steal.
You hear that? Fly a plane? You heard the chief right. The suspects were allegedly thinking about stealing a plane to then make a getaway. In fact, the younger one had spent hundreds of hours with this online flight simulator. This, of course, according to police. But the whole thing started to unravel when a fellow student came forward with several alarming text messages allegedly sent by the younger of the 2, the 16-year-old, indicating an attack was imminent. Here's just one sample text. Quote, I've just been kind of planning my get back at the world thing, and I figured if you had anyone you wanted revenge on, I could see if I had anything planned. Quote, one of those texts. We've got more for you throughout the next 2 hours, but I want to bring in our Thelma Gutierrez following the story for us today. Thelma, first things first, where are these 2 teenagers now?
Brooke, the 18-year-old Dallin Morgan is out on bail right now. The 16-year-old is still in detention. Lots of questions being asked at this moment. Brooke, you had gotten to the point about what could have possibly possessed these people to have wanted to carry out such a thing. And that is what the police chief is looking at right now.
So far, are police saying anything as far as the motive goes, or nothing yet?
You know, Brooke, you alluded to one of the texts, and in it, one of them says, the 16-year-old tells another 16-year-old student, I've been just kind of planning to get back at the world, and I figured if I had anyone you wanted to get revenge on, I could see if I have anything planned. Besides that, I mean, you know, it's not well written, but besides that, he also says to that student, he says, if I tell you not to go to school one day, make damn sure you and your brother are not there. So was it a question of revenge? That is what he's alluding to. That's what that 16-year-old is alluding to in that text message.
And again, the 16-year-old, the one who's doing the texting apparently, one more text from the 16-year-old, quote, I just don't care. I'm pretty much a lying, cheating manipulator with everyone except 7 people. Everyone else is just a piece. You know, a lot of the reporting found that makes it seem kind of like he, the 16-year-old, is the mastermind here. Does it appear that way to you?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Brooke, just a short time ago, I talked to the Roy Police Department, and the police chief had said that that's exactly in the sense that they're getting. After all, this was a person who other kids at school had said would be the next Einstein. He was very smart. This is somebody who had knowledge of building a pipe bomb, somebody who had plotted out this entire thing according to police. And I thought what was really interesting about this, Brooke, is that the 16-year-old, according to the police chief, actually went to Columbine High School in Denver back in December. He met with the principal there. He flew in one day, took a limo, met with that principal, interviewed him, he said, for a school newspaper, and then flew back to Utah that very same day.
So clearly there is some sort of fascination, at least with this 16-year-old, and what happened in Columbine, the fact that they went, or that he went to talk to his principal. But to take it a step further, Thelma, this 16-year-old, I guess, sort of wanted to emulate that plot. He thought he could have done better.
You know what, Brooke, that's what the police chief said. He said he wanted to one-up the people in Columbine, thought that he was much smarter, and was actually offended that they had only carried out, according to the police chief, 1% of their plan. He said that he felt that he was smart enough to be far more effective.
It is tragic that someone so bright would take it this way. Apparently, Thelma Gutierrez, thank you. We're not finished with this story here. We're going to delve much deeper into psychology here behind a plot like this one with Peter Langley. He wrote a book. It's called Why Kids Kill: Inside the Mind of School Shooters. That conversation is coming up next hour. Please stay tuned for that. Meantime, now this. We have what amounts to a cosmic near miss today. Heard about this? This asteroid, just about the size of a school bus, passed within 37,000 miles one mistake that led police to their door. I'm Brooke Baldwin. The news is now. Chilling video of a killer denying a little girl's murder.
I'm never been in trouble.
You'll hear what Ryan runs lights. Here they are. It caused them to appear, how this happened, and Lego Man in space, Chad Myers. Gonna get all space geeky with me. Next. Okay, no one got hurt, but have you heard about this asteroid today? Got a little too close for comfort, Chad Myers. As I understand it, though, it's already zoomed on past, so any bit of danger, it's over.
Correct. It was only the size of a bus. That's pretty big for your head. I know. Flying over, though, and as an asteroid, it would have literally broken up in space as it came through the atmosphere. So that's why NASA and NOAA and all of them said there really would be no danger, even if it came through, and it would take something significantly bigger than that. Let me take you over here. Oh, no. Let me take you over here real quick.
Okay.
And I'll show you kind of what happened, then I'll come right back, because I know we have 3 stories to do.
Walk on over there.
I'm going to walk with me. Walk this way. Here is right there. That's the big circle of Earth. Earth would be right there. Today, a bus-sized asteroid at this planetary right around there, and the 2 of them, where we are right there, that was the X marks the spot, and that was only 17,000 miles away, 37,000 miles away from us right here as it passed on by. Now, this thing's going to be out there a long time, and the Earth's going to keep going around and around and around, so we could encounter this thing again.
We couldn't. I mean, I feel like we were talking about a bus-sized asteroid a couple months ago, so this...
Well, these happen all the time.
It's happened all the time.
Sure.
Since we're speaking of celestial phenomena, let's talk about this. Ooh, zoom out. Okay, let's take a look at the sky above northern Sweden.
Oh,
this is Abisko National Park, latitude 68 degrees north. That's pretty far up there. How does this happen?
The interaction, the magnetosphere, the ionosphere, the plasma coming in, the coronal mass ejection we had. We even had some color as far south as Marquette, Michigan with this. And literally just 1 hour and 2 minutes ago, there was another big solar flare that came out of that same sunspot. This is an X2 class flare, significantly bigger than the one we had. The good news is this X-class flare that just came out is not facing the Earth, it's pointed away, but there still could be more radiation in the atmosphere. We still could be seeing this solar flare, these big things, these green skies, red skies.
Does it really look green, or is that just because of some sort of infrared camera?
Green is a very common color. When it turns red, that's a very uncommon color. This one was a green one. Every picture I've seen so far has been green.
Okay, and we had to get this other story in. I love that these two guys, this Lego Man, up into the stratosphere. Here he is. What is he doing, and how do they do this? For like, what, $400 or so?
They bought a weather balloon.
Okay.
They went to the party store, and they bought $160 worth of helium. You know, they want just to blow up real, like happy birthday balloons, but they blew up an entire weather balloon. It went up 80,000 feet. A parachute was there as soon as the balloon popped. And it came back down.
Obviously.
It was 75 miles away. He said, how did they find it? They actually had a GPS phone up attached to this guy. And when it landed, they found it, they drove back to it and found all of the parts. And now they have 97 minutes worth of video of this going up all the way up into the stratosphere. Look right there. You can see the black sky. I'm just thinking isn't like the guy from Virgin. What's his name? Branson? Richard Branson. He's got to be interested in this.
Hey, kids.
Yeah, he's the expert.
I just love that story. One of my favorites of the day. Chad Myers, thank you so much. And now to the race for the White House. We are now 4 days here from Florida primary. We're going to go live. 2 students are accused of plotting to blow up their own high school in Roy, Utah, and they might have gone through with it, police say, if they hadn't tipped their hands. Take a look here. This is the older suspect. This is the face we can show you. This is 18-year-old Dallin Morgan. He, by the way, is already free on bond. Police are not naming the other suspect because he's only 16. He, though, is still in custody, and investigators say these two had an elaborate plan to set up a bomb during a school assembly with maps, pointing out surveillance cameras, blind spots. They were even allegedly thinking about stealing a plane afterward to escape to another country. But this whole plot started to unravel when a fellow student spoke up. The student came forward, was on the receiving end of several alarming text messages allegedly sent by the 16-year-old indicating an attack was coming. Here's one of those texts. I want to read it for you. Quote, if I tell you one day not to go to school, make damn damn sure you and your brother are not there, end quote. And if any of this sounds reminiscent of Columbine, it's no coincidence. The younger suspect is reportedly a big fan. I want to bring in Peter Langman. He's the author of Why Kids Kill, Inside the Minds of School Shooters. And Peter, from the information we have, from the information you've seen, do these two teenagers fit a pattern at all?
They certainly do fit a pattern, but it's not the typical school shooting or bombing, only because there were two of them. There have been twice other times that two students teamed up, both at Columbine and in an attack at Jonesboro in Arkansas in 1998. So pairs of students have committed attacks before, but it does make it different than your typical attack.
What is it, what happens in a young person that sends a child down one path versus another, a path of destruction? Apparently one of the teachers described by the 16-year-old as a young Einstein, very smart. Why go this direction?
There's usually been many factors that influence a kid to commit a school shooting. Sometimes it's more genetic. It has to do with their personality or with significant mental health issues such as schizophrenia. In other cases, it's more environmental. Some school shooters have come from really broken homes, have histories of physical abuse, their parents were substance abusers, in and out of jail, and so on. So some cases seem more environmentally influenced, and others seem more about just who the kids were as people.
Yeah, it makes me think of Cycle 101 and nature versus nurture. I want to share another text. This is from the 16-year-old suspect. Quote, "I just don't care. I'm pretty much a lying, cheating manipulator with everyone else, with everyone except 7 people. Everyone else is just a piece." You're a psychologist. What do you read there? Sociopathic, narcissistic? What?
Well, when I hear about the lying, cheating, manipulating, it makes them sound antisocial or psychopathic, which is in characteristic with Eric Harris, who also was a liar and a manipulator and very good at deceiving people. So he seems to fit, based on that, in the Eric Harris mold of school attacker.
Eric Harris, Dylan Klebold, the two young men who pulled off the horrendous school shooting in Columbine. Apparently, with regard to this Utah plot, the young suspect, the 16-year-old, very much so fascinated by what happened in Columbine. He even said he was going to one-up Columbine, even hopped on a plane, went to Colorado, interviewed the Columbine principal as part of a journalism project for the school paper. Peter, there seems to be sort of a sick, cult-like following of these Columbine killers. Why is that?
Columbine established itself as kind of the prototypical school attack because of its magnitude. Also, Eric Harris presented himself as intelligent and very conniving, manipulative, secretive, and yet charismatic in his view. And many of his writings have influenced other shooters. So Eric Harris has sort of become the role model to follow, imitate, or in this case, to try to outdo.
Peter Langman, thank you, and thank goodness for that student, whoever he or she is, who shared those text messages with police, or else we would be having potentially a very different discussion. Peter, thank you. 35 pounds of cocaine discovered inside the United Nations. Up next, where it was hidden and where it came from. Plus, we are now just getting these dramatic 911 calls before Demi Moore's cocaine in the United Nations mailroom. More than 35 pounds was found in these hollowed-out books shipped from Mexico. The cocaine was in a bag that was made to look like a diplomatic pouch. New York police are investigating, and no word yet on who was to get said pouch. And remember the barefoot bandit? We were just talking about it this week. The guy who eluded police for 2 years using stolen boats and cars and an airplane. Well, he was sentenced today in federal court in Seattle, 6.5 years in prison. Colton Harris Moore pleaded guilty last year to stealing a plane and burglarizing a bank. He was arrested after crashing a stolen plane in the Bahamas and trying to escape in a stolen boat. His criminal adventures, shall we call them, often done without shoes, barefoot, attracted a following of 50,000 Facebook fans and a movie deal. And we have what amounts to a cosmic near miss today. An asteroid about the size of a school bus passed within 37,000 miles of Earth. That is less than 1/5 the distance between Earth and the moon. Astronomers say we were never in any danger, but it was one of the top 20 closest approaches ever recorded. And this is just too amazing. I have to take another look here. This is the sky above northern Sweden at Isko National Park. Latitude 68 degrees north. That's pretty far up there. Chad Myers, looks like an animation. This is the real deal. Northern Lights. Can you imagine looking out your house and seeing the green in the sky?
I've seen it one time.
Oh, wow.
I was in Detroit Lakes up in Minnesota, and I was fishing. We were watching this overhead, and it was mesmerizing. Literally, you can't take your eyes off it because you know that it's not man-made. It's not a movie. It's literally in the sky, and it looks just like that. Now, I have had a couple reports saying that had all the way down to Marquette, Michigan, but just on the bottom of the horizon. I'll tell you what, we are getting into a very active solar season now. Maybe for the next year, there will be northern lights from now until at least the middle of 2013. We may even have a chance to see them down here in the middle latitudes of the U.S. Let's take a look at something else now. A little farther to the north up in Ontario.
Lego Man.
Very bright young men hooked up $120 worth of helium to a $60 weather balloon and sent this guy 80,000 feet in the sky with 4 cameras, a parachute, and a cell phone with GPS tracking. It went 75 miles downrange after a 97-minute from top to bottom flight. It landed, they finally found it later on, and they have all of this awesome video.
This is a weather balloon in camera.
Yes.
They took these pictures.
And Lego Man now 80,000 feet in the sky. That's about 15, 16 miles.
Now famous Lego Man.
Good stuff.
Chad, thank you. Coming up next, we're going to play you part of the 911 call just before Demi Moore was rushed to the hospital. Also, this.
Did you get that call before? No. I've never been in trouble before. Okay.
This is chilling video of a killer denying a little girl's murder. He did later admit to doing it and killed himself behind bars. We now have this interrogation video shot just 24 hours before police charged this man with the unspeakable crime. You're going to hear what he said and what it reveals next. So the maintenance man who murdered a 7-year-old girl just released video shows this guy, Ryan Brund, during his polygraph test before his arrest for the murder of 7-year-old Jarellis Rivera, murdering her in suburban Atlanta. Jarellis disappeared back on December 2nd. Her body was found days later. She had been molested, beaten to death with her own roller skate and disposed of in a nearby trash compactor. During this polygraph, Brund repeatedly denies killing her.
Did you participate in any way in causing the death of that girl?
No.
Did you cause the death of that girl?
No.
Did you participate in any way of disposing of that girl?
No.
Do you know for sure who caused the death of that girl?
No.
Watch in this next clip how calmly Brund describes news reports of Jarellis' death.
Participate in any way in causing the death of that girl?
No.
In other words, did you have anything at all to do with it? Was you party to it? Did you help somebody, or did you do it yourself?
No.
Okay. Did you cause the death of that girl?
No.
Have you heard, and I'm a little bit, and again, I apologize that I'm a little bit behind on the news releases and stuff too, because I didn't get a chance to watch the news. Have you heard how she died?
No.
Have you heard anything about it other than they found her?
No.
Did you watch the news?
I watched some of it.
Okay, because you're ahead of me if you did. What did they say on the news?
They found her body in the compound of the apartment complex.
They didn't say anything about her story.
And she was sexually abused.
Just last week, Brund pleaded guilty to murdering Jarellis Rivera. He hanged himself with his own sweatshirt in prison 2 days later. Ever since actress Demi Moore was rushed to the hospital, police say 2 students wanted to attack their school Columbine style. It was a plot months in the making. Now we're getting details on their whole escape plan and the one mistake that led police to their door. I'm Brooke Baldwin. The news is now. Chilling video.
Well, take a look at this list. I want you to try and memorize that list as best you can.
Mirror, stove, parent, forest,
We're
ladder.
going to take the list off the screen there now. And again, keep in mind that what would happen is that if you were to have a concussion and you said, look, I'm feeling fine, everything's good, we weren't sure about you, we'd say, you know what, let's see. And as part of that, we put up a list similar to this list, for example. And now, out of this list, which has lots of different words, see if you can find the words that I gave you in the first place.
Mirror, stove, forest, parent, ladder.
There you go. Let's flash red. Let's see if you're right.
Am I right?
Right, you are. So you pass the test. Now imagine
Question two is just a little piece of our week wind down.
Well, Mr. JKUSA, John King asks, where do you hide the Uggs when you go on TV?
John King. See, he knows this because not only do I wear my Uggs to work sometimes, but on big primary nights, I'll kick my Uggs off right before I have to go on. Look, they're comfortable, and sometimes they hide behind the desk. And Christina and I are going to Tampa for the big Florida primary, so look for us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 o'clock, live from Tampa.